Speaking of adding value, for those who haven't read Killing Secret Cows or What Would the Rockefellers Do you mind giving us just a nugget or two? I've read both. I think they're incredible. I would love to hear from your point of view, from the author's point of view. What's a takeaway that can entice people? Because I think these books are essential for anyone to read, regardless of where they are in their journey.
I feel like Sacred Cows is about 9 financial myths that most people don't detect because they're like as invisible as air, but as important as air. And it's because we've just been indoctrinated and taught a certain way. And the nice thing about that book is I'm showing people something that once they can see, they don't unsee. It's like, okay, now I get it. I can avoid that misstep or mistake. I feel like there's 3 revolutionary things in there.
Welcome to the Secrets to Abundant Living podcast. Your guide on this journey is Amy Silvis, ready to unlock the keys to a life of true abundance. We're diving into everything from financial freedom and optimal health to meaningful relationships, geographic freedom, and everything in between. It's about creating a life rich in experiences, purpose, and joy. Get ready for empowering conversations, expert insights, and real-life stories that inspire you to live abundantly. If you're ready for the secrets to an abundant life, hit that subscribe button now, and let's get started.
Secrets to Abundant Living podcast community, welcome back to another fantastic episode. Because the podcast is growing, I'm going to reintroduce myself. My name is Amy Silvis. I am the founder and CEO of Silvis Capital, and I have the delight on this podcast to welcome Garrett Gunderson, who is just a powerhouse. I hope you all are ready to take notes, but Garrett is the author of 10 books. He said that they're selling really well. He's not joking. Multiple Wall Street Journal bestsellers. We'll get into that. He's also a speaker who, thank goodness, uses entertainment to educate. He's also a stand-up comedian. Your bio goes on and on because that's how great you are. Garrett, tell us a little bit more about yourself and welcome to the podcast.
I just definitely have a lot of interest. Like from the time I was a kid, I just loved comedy. And so when I sold my business in 2021, I decided I was going to sell it in 2020. And as soon as it was going to happen, I started writing a comedy special and rehearsing and preparing for that. So it was like just a kind of a cool little artistic jaunt in my life. Now it's mostly like a hobby and I use it from stage, and it's heavily based around money, but I actually have like a real passion and love for writing. Like when I wrote my first book, I was scared to write. I was like, am I going to be good enough with how I write? And I hadn't really I took some English classes with some good teachers in high school, didn't really write a lot in college. And so I had like a ghostwriter that really helped me with my first book. Well, I rewrote that book from scratch in 2023 because I was like, I'm a better writer now. And I cut out a bunch of words that's Killing Sacred Cows. And then I rewrote What Would the Rockefellers Do because it was so popular and selling so well. And then I came out with the book Money Unmasked at the end of 2023 that I think is my best work. It's my highest rated work. And I didn't have a co-author. So I fell in love with that process. And it's really cool because when someone reads your book and you meet them, they feel like they know you. And so you accelerate the relationship. And a lot of people are talk about the impact it had on them, even though I've never met them before. So to me, I just like to do things that feel somewhat artistic: comedy, writing, speaking. Even when I speak, I wrote a theatrical keynote. It's like a one-man show where I act out 4 money characters, like the 4 different money personas. So yeah, a lot of interest. My wife's like, if you just stayed more focused on financial services, we'd be a lot wealthier, but I'd be a lot less happy, I think.
Well, and I love that you bring that up because we do talk about abundance here on the podcast. We talk about money too, and the fact that money is great, but it's maybe a vehicle to maybe one aspect of abundance, but it's not everyone's destination. So I love that interplay, especially what you just said of maybe you wouldn't be as happy, but clearly you're successful. Clearly you're having an impact, which is great. Can you tell us what prompted you to write your first book?
I'm going to sound so shallow because I basically, back then I was like, man, it'd be so cool if I could write a book, to be an author. It was all ego. And so for 2 years, I did nothing with it. I got 72 pages in, terrible title, because it was all about me. It wasn't really about the reader. It was about me being cool, me being known, and it just wasn't motivating enough. And then we had our whole firm together. There's 42 employees at the time. We hired a consultant. We did this retreat, and we were like, what could we all get behind and work on together? That would matter. And we decided a book. And so everybody could do research and gather case studies and have input on the design. And then my partner that I was going to write the book with died in a plane crash. So it kind of like pushed all that off. And for 4 months, I was just trying to like keep our 3 offices together and like gaining weight because I was exhausted. I would like be so tired when I come home, I'd go get like a McDonald's sundae and eat it every night and just freaking gained a bunch of weight, was just exhausted. But then my wife just called me out on it. She's like, "You're an extraordinary businessman, but you're pretty much an ordinary husband and father." And I was like, damn, we had a 1-year-old at the time. And so I decided, look, I can't just keep doing what I'm doing. I'm going to start officing from home for at least the month of December. This was back in 2006, and just really invest in my wife and son. And then they would take naps. They would get tired and take naps. So I had to start writing, because it's like I just started to have this new energy and zeal for life and remembered what we were working on, but set aside because of the grief. And then I was like, I don't know if I could really do this. So I called one of our clients that had been through everything, been to all of our workshops, watched all of our videos. And I was like, how do you feel about like ghostwriting a book with me? He's like, dude, I read all the time. I'd love to write a book. Now he's ghostwritten for more than me as a New York Times bestselling author, other Wall Street Journal bestselling authors. And now he actually works with me and my firm, helping financial advisors license our content. But that's how the book came about. And then I just made this declaration that I was going to make it a New York Times bestseller. And someone came up and said, "Are you serious?" And I was like, "Yeah." And then they helped me build a team and do it in a very naive way. We got there, but it was quite the wild ride. And that book's 2008 was when the official published version came out. And it's still in the Amazon top 100 for wealth management, for the audiobook and for the hardcover copy right now. It may have fallen out this week because it ran out of copies, but it's just been doing really well still. And if people want to hear my comedy, they could buy the audiobook, and I have tons of my comedy checkered in through from chapter to chapter to kind of like drive home some of the financial points.
Oh, I love that you do that. Sometimes audiobooks are even read by not even the author, but just the fact that you also add some additional entertainment and comedy into that. That's outstanding.
Well, my first read of Killing Sacred Cows, I had this publisher call me and they're like, "Hey, you've never released an audiobook for Killing Sacred Cows. You really should do that. We'll give you an advance. We'll set up all the stuff." I was like, "Why not?" So they booked me 2 days at the studio, and I realized I suck at reading. Like, I was so bad, and I was struggling so badly. First off, because it was ghost written, not totally written by me. So it didn't kind of like read the way that I would speak. And I just felt rushed. And so if you read some of the comments on Audible for the first version of the book, it's like higher score for the book than the performance of the reading of the book. So I actually hired a coach, Larry Moss, who's an acting coach who's worked with other authors that have books or other actors that created books. And so I feel like Sacred Cows 2, I spent like 3 months on it, like going back and forth with the coach, not recording too much in a single day. If I wasn't present, I would just stop. And I had some people say they couldn't tell I was reading, which was what my goal was. And it was slow enough that you don't have to slow me down. A lot of people put their books on like 1.5. Most people are like, I think I have to go at 1 or less when they listen to my first version. So yeah, it's a process. And yeah, I like reading my books. I like the thought of like people reading and hearing my voice when they read and giving that connection. It's like an intimate, cool thing.
It is. Well, and makes perfect sense, again, why people feel like they know you after listening to one of your audiobooks or reading one of your books. That makes perfect sense. Money is such a taboo subject. It can be complex. It can be full of fear. There's so much emotion around that, specifically with Killing Sacred Cows and just your other topics, including what would the Rockefellers do. What made you want to tackle these subjects? What's the impetus there that made you want to go so far as to create books?
I heard people all the time say, "I wish I'd have known this sooner," or "I've never heard this before." My favorite is like, "I wish I would have known you 20 years ago." They'd tell me this when I was in my 20s. I was like, well, I was either in diapers or a baby. I didn't really know this information. And so I thought, how often is it hard for someone to hear something different than what they believe? It becomes defensive for them. But if they can read it and take time to process it, then they don't have to feel like personally attacked by it, because it's general philosophy versus like calling their baby ugly, their financial baby, whatever it might be. So I just felt like it was a really good medium. And I'm a big, like, I love records. I have a record player here and at my cabin. So I love vinyl. And there's like an experience. And I feel like books still have that nostalgia. They enter people's homes. They go on the bookshelf. People read them while they're in bed. Or I'm writing a comedy book around finance that I hope it just gets read in the bathroom because it's funny to think about someone in the bathroom reading a financial book to me. So it's this experience where when I wrote Killing Sacred Cows, I built so many amazing relationships and met so many amazing people because of the book. Like I remember going to this thing, Mastermind Talks, and I was speaking there, pretty much speaking there because someone had read my book and introduced me to a guy, Joe Polish. I spoke at his Genius Network event. Jason, who runs Mastermind Talks, heard my speech, was like, will you come and speak? And when I was there, I meet this guy, Derek Coburn. He had read Killing Sacred Cows. We immediately become fast friends. We now talk all the time. Like I stay at his house when I go to DC. Like we go, it's like, I've just built so many quality relationships because when someone reads the work, they feel like they know me because especially now I put a lot more personal stories in Money Unmasked and a lot more vulnerable. And it's just a cool cathartic process to write a book because you just learn a lot and you heal from a lot of things and you get deeper on certain things and even more articulate. And even though it's difficult at times, it's like really rewarding. So if anyone's ever thinking about writing one, I highly encourage it, even if it's something you write for yourself or if we bring it out to the marketplace. And like my books are my best foot forward. If you don't like my books, you probably aren't going to like me. That's kind of like basically, if you hate the books, you probably, like if you hate Money Unmasked, you're definitely not going to like me. So it's like, but most people read it and they like it. It's a 4.7 out of 5-star book.
Yes. I love that vulnerability. It really comes through even just in this short conversation. I think many would look at you as such an accomplished man and maybe not expect you to talk about the times when you led with ego or the times that you failed or when business didn't go exactly as planned, you're reinventing yourself. You hired a coach to speak, to do your audiobook. That is not something that our culture, I feel like, engages in enough. Yet here you are doing that. Was it ever hard for you to decide to be more vulnerable with folks, or is that just who you've always been?
Yeah, where I got really vulnerable and realized like it was an important thing was in 2008. I was speaking at this event called InvestFest in Vancouver, and I had a balloon payment coming due on one of my commercial real estate properties, and I couldn't refinance it because I had so many other properties on my credit, and my cash flow had substantially decreased from 2007 to 2008. We had a banner year in 2007. 2008, we were $2 million less in revenue that year. And I remember before the stage, I'm talking to this banker who's like, we're just going to foreclose on you if you can't just pay this off. And I'm like, well, what are our other options? And I'm like, can I at least fly out to meet with you and we can maybe see what possibilities there are? Or maybe I can get someone else to buy it and partner with them. And like, I was trying to work it through and they're just yelling at me. And so we get off the phone. I decided I was going to fly out there and meet with them. They're a regional bank. Regional banks just got crushed. And I got up on stage and it was like, they're playing this really cool music. Everybody's clapping. And then I was like, you'll never believe what just happened. I just got off the phone with this banker and this is what happened. And because I was like, I can't, like my wife knows my emotions. They're on my face. I wear them on my sleeve. Like she could just tell I don't have a good poker face. So it's like, I just had to be honest about it. And when I finished speaking, I actually said, hey, look, I'm supposed to make an offer. I'm just going to forget about that, hand out the form. Everybody's in different situation, but some of you are probably in a tough situation like I am right now. So you could just write down any number on the form and I'll honor it. I won't look at the number. I'll let my team process it. If you're a student and you have no money, if you're deep in debt and you put $1, I don't care. Like I just want to like be there for you because I could use people being there for me right now. And so I had a lineup of so many people that came and talked to me, hugged me. And I remember the event organizers like, man, that was a really cool technique. I'm like, what do you mean technique? She goes, you know, that vulnerability technique, that authenticity technique. I'm like, no, like not a technique. I just didn't know what to do in the moment. So I decided to be real. I still feel like I'm so open about the past. I have a hard time and I'm trying to be better about the moments when I'm going through a struggle because one, I don't want to put people in pain or have them have fear around things, but like, I just know people, whether they have a difficult moment in their marriage or in parenting with kids or in their business and cash flow or a business partnership or a family member or whatever, there's like a health issue. There's always something that is not 100% with people.
Right.
And you can feel when they play pretend. And there's nothing that I despise more than having to play pretend. Like not saying what's really going on. Like that happens sometimes and it's just no fun. Like, cause I'm just not good at it and it's not real. I just rather be real. And sometimes my guys that work for me and they're in the sales department, they're like, people like how authentic you are. And I'm like, I want to remind myself of like, I want to be even more open and even more authentic. I want to be like just as real as possible. I don't want to have like stage Garrett versus offstage Garrett. I don't want to have family Garrett versus business Garrett. Like I played that game early in my life. I grew up in Utah. And in Utah, like I had these Mormon business partners and I wasn't Mormon. And like I would feel ashamed to drink around them because I would feel judged. Like they called it adult candy and I didn't want to be, or I wouldn't swear around them. And I love to swear, I gotta be honest. And so like I was like a chameleon because I didn't know who I was. And it becomes exhausting when you're a chameleon because you're in one conversation, you show up a certain way. You're in another conversation, you show up as a different way. And then you have to keep track of all of that. And so like I spoke at an event yesterday. I just wore jeans and a little sweater. Like I just wear what I want. Like I just want to be who I am. Like I have long hair because I love long hair. People said, does it hurt your business? I'm like, I don't know, but I like it. My wife likes it. Even my mom likes it. And I'm like, it's just what I do because it's what I enjoy. When I was young, someone said, you can't have a beard because people won't trust you. So I got these pictures where I had fake glasses that I was holding and I had shaved my beard and I had this boxy suit on. And it just looks so fake. And I leave that picture up over my left just to remind myself of what that fakeness looks like. And even my old buddy, I have a buddy, his name's Garrett too, who texts me today. He's like, I'm having an event with 7,000 people. You want to come speak? I'm like, that sounds pretty awesome. He's like, send me a picture, but don't send me that one with those fake glasses from 2002. Like he still jokes about it, right? So it's like, I think it's being comfortable enough in who I am, but also realizing like I'm not totally transparent about like things that my wife's like, we don't need to make everything public because she knows I'm just like, I just talk about anything, anytime. And she's like, there's some things that are just private that you don't have to talk about. But I'm cool talking about anything. And I'm also cool just saying, no, my family doesn't want me to talk about that. If my kids want to remain private or if they want to be in a video, like I've had them introduce me on stage, but I just want to be real when I'm talking to people instead of like, oh yeah, I hit New York Times. I've got it all figured out. I wrote those books. When I wrote Money Unmasked, I went through the two main things I talk about, that people are addicted to playing not to lose and they hold on to what they got, or they're playing to win. In 2023, I had to let go of a licensing deal because I was playing not to lose because it was a 7-figure contract, but I couldn't be who I wanted to be and they wanted to control me. And then I was also playing to win in a partnership because I was trying to work so hard to provide for everybody and that person wasn't doing their job. And so I actually wrote the book and I was like, oh shit, look at this. I have to go through it myself, even though I wrote it, because it's easy to see when it's an outside perspective or when the stakes are low. But when the stakes are high, all of this, the game has changed because then that's where we get into like scarcity and protection and defending and preservation and all that kind of stuff. And sometimes it's hard to just be honest. Like I just got off the phone with one of my mentors and he's like, what did you learn from previous businesses that you're doing different in this one? I'm like, I've learned integrity is a two-way street. And I've learned that if I don't love the people that I work with, that there's no reason to do it. And most importantly, I've just learned that I'm not going to be manipulated like in the past because I would confront someone about something like, oh, I'm having a fight with my wife. They know I'm a family guy. So I'm like, oh, and I would not do it. But there's never a convenient time for an inconvenient conversation. So I'm going to listen to my intuition moving forward. And if I'm like, it's inconvenient to talk about this or to deal with this, I'm just going to deal with it because it becomes harder if we don't. I know I'm not giving you any chance to talk. I'm a talker. Pause for a second.
Garrett, I'm a great listener. So it's actually one of my strengths. So I really appreciate it. I know our audience does as well. Some of the things that I'm just reflecting on as you said this is how much less energy are you spending having to mask and be somebody that you're not, that you can go and apply to being a great dad, being a great husband, writing these great books, giving your talks on stage. It is a lot of energy to be someone that you're not. Yeah. So I think it's a wonderful thing to set an example for myself and for others that, hey, no one else is like you. Maybe you're here to be you and show other people, that, yeah, you don't have to blend into everybody and just be a carbon copy, successful author. You can just be Garrett Gunderson, rock it out. Have you ever thought about having multiple streams of income? Instead of relying on just one stream of income where you're trading your time for money, how would you like to free up more of your time and live a more abundant life? As a listener of the show, you're invited to attend one of our upcoming trainings where I'll give you an inside look into how you can add passive income, and get all the other perks of recession-resistant real estate investing without the headaches of being a landlord. I'll also be sharing some hidden mistakes to avoid and the criteria I personally look for when evaluating potential investment opportunities. To reserve your seat for free, go to silvuscapital.com/webinar. Again, that special link to reserve your seat for free is silvuscapital.com/webinar. I look forward to seeing you on the training. And now back to the show.
Yeah, I just had all my high school buddies to my cabin, and like they just know a different version of me, but we got into deep conversations and vision, but we did just talk about dumb stuff too. And it's like, it's cool just that everyone's got hopefully some type of normalcy to them and things that they enjoy regardless of the amount of notoriety or success or perceived success. A lot of people perceive that I know, like at one time someone came up and asked if I was a billionaire. I'm like, damn, I'm not even close. But it's amazing that someone's asking that. It's just like the people's perception is if someone's more successful than them, that they've got it all figured out. But success is like a dimensional game. It's financial success, but it's also purpose, but it's also mindset, but it's also physical health, but it's also a quality social life. And to me, wealth is when you can be present, when you can enjoy your life, when you've got fulfillment and happiness. And I've unfortunately in the past been so addicted to building my net worth. And then I wrote about it in Sacred Cows and then tested it out. Like I had a decent net worth when I wrote the book, and then real estate happened. The real estate market collapsed that year that I released it, and my net worth went down substantially, but my relationships went up exponentially and my understanding went up to a new level. And so even though it was painful, feeling like I was losing something, I was also losing the energy of defining myself by numbers on a piece of paper, defining myself by a balance sheet, and instead defining myself more by the value I created, by the value that I had with relationships and the riches within those relationships and the quality of life. And I just feel really fortunate to be able to do work that I love. I think a lot of people are just not doing what they love and they're disengaged and they just can't wait till they retire, or they do it just because of the money or the benefits. And I do it because I enjoy doing it. I had more money coming in 2022 with a licensing deal, not working that much, but I didn't feel as good. Like it was fun to do comedy, but when comedy was done, I was like, what do I fill my days with? There's only so much working out I want to do, or all my friends are working. So like I don't want to watch any more Netflix. Like purpose is really useful. It's really helpful. It's really fulfilling.
It is a destination. The money, I think culture really lies to us that money should be the destination. It will bring you all those abundance things. And while it can be an interesting vehicle, it certainly can be. Yeah, I think those who have had a lot of money and success will explicitly articulate that there's got to be more. There's got to be something else that defines abundance for you.
I just enjoy money earned a lot more than money that like is passive. I just do. Like I like being connected to it.
Okay.
I like have recurring revenue. But I like having recurring revenue where I'm teaching in exchange for that, where I'm making an impact. Because sometimes I built a business that was really efficient that paid me even when I didn't show up. And it just is like boring eventually and made me. So I like to connect with people. I like to think about how I can invest in myself, create more value, play a game that I could dedicate years to. And that game of value creation, like that I could dedicate my life to really, because I have this thing where I sold my business, I got bored, and then I got to have this second chance to be like, what do I want my life to look like? What do I want to do day to day? I want to write on a regular basis. I want to do podcasts on a regular basis. I want to figure out how to be better at media. I'm really good at writing. I'm good at on stage, but like I want to figure out how to, this social media game that I've neglected because I'm just maybe too old, but I'm just not going to feel too old anymore. So yeah, that's compelling to me. Like learning how to create stories and content and learn and dissect. It's like, it gives me hope for what could be done.
Beautiful. So speaking of adding value, for those who haven't read Killing Secret Cows or What Would the Rockefellers Do you mind giving us just a nugget or two? I've read both. I think they're incredible. But I would love to hear from your point of view, from the author's point of view, what's a takeaway that can entice people? Because I think these books are essential for anyone to read, regardless of where they are in their journey.
Thank you. I feel like Sacred Cows is about 9 financial myths that most people don't detect because they're as invisible as air, but as important as air. And it's because we've just been indoctrinated and taught a certain way. And the nice thing about that book is I'm showing people something that once they can see, they don't unsee. It's like, okay, now I get it. I can avoid that misstep or mistake. I feel like there's 3 revolutionary things in there. One is the opening chapter, the finite pie. If people believe in a zero-sum game and competition over collaboration, there's only so much to go around, and that they believe in scarcity, no amount of luck, saving discipline, or rate of return will save them from that mindset. So it's about understanding that exchange creates wealth and what unequal exchange does to create wealth, and how there can be unequal exchange that creates win-win benefit, that both parties end up wealthier instead of this notion of one person takes, the other person has less. So that chapter is really foundational. But then there's the avoid debt like the plague chapter. And it's that most people define debt wrong. They just say anytime they have a loan, they call it debt. But you could have a loan and be in equity, because that loan is attached to an asset that's worth more than the loan against it. That's equity. Debt's when the loan's worth more than the asset, which would be debt. And so just identifying what debt really is and what your relationship to it is could be really useful. And then the self-insurance chapter, that once people learn to insure the catastrophic, not the inconsequential, they'll find out that they've been probably paying the most expensive, least important insurance and leaving the exposure for the most important catastrophic things. And that chapter shows how you can pay pennies on the dollar for insurance rather than, unfortunately, a lot of people pay $1 for $1 of insurance or more because they try to do it themselves instead of do it more efficiently. So I feel like those are 3 really impactful chapters. And then what would the Rockefellers do is the Vanderbilt family, they had more money than the U.S. Treasury. And when Cornelius Vanderbilt died, they destroyed, within 9 years, his son doubled the estate. And then when his son died, there was never an increase in that asset base. And 54 years later, Vanderbilt died broke. Contrast that to the Rockefeller family. They're moving on to their 7th generation of wealth now. They use 2 critical factors, insurance and trust, and 3 peripheral factors, family offices, family constitution, and family retreat, which I talk about in the book, that once you know that, you can stack the odds into generational wealth, but you don't have to be uber wealthy to benefit from it. I wrote that book to make legacy more available and accessible instead of like so far away from what they like when people think about it, because they have to have tens of millions of dollars. They could start with thousands of dollars. I started when I was 19 years old with some of the strategies in there. And I think it's just a really easy read because it's a pretty interesting story. And it's very pragmatic, more so than any other book I've written that says this is what you specifically do.
Very, very important. And I love that you emphasize that this isn't just for the ultra wealthy. This is something that, as you said, it's applicable no matter where you are on this journey. It's not too late to get started. It's certainly not too late to educate yourself and dive deep into these myths, these resources that the wealthy use that are thankfully available and accessible through what you teach. Really, really incredible. I hate that we're at time, Garrett. This was such
Awesome,
a powerful conversation. Thank you. Well, and I just love, just to underline this, I love how much your mindset and your way of thinking about the world translates into these gifts that you've given us, whether it's through your comedy, through the speeches, the talks that you give, and through your books. Just really highlights for me and hopefully the listeners as well, that so much of our reality really starts in our head and how we perceive the world, and everything flows through that. I think you're a great example of that.
Awesome. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thank you. What's the best way for folks to get in touch with you other than listening to your audiobooks? And
if they hit me up on Instagram, Garrett B. Gunderson, middle initial B as in boy, Garrett B. Gunderson. DM me. What's the name of it? Like, I know you know, but what's the name of the show?
Oh yeah, Secrets to Abundant Living podcast.
Put Secrets to Abundant Living, and we will hook you up with the Tax Navigator Tools. So we'll be able to just give people the Tax Navigator. They can just go through, figure out where they're overpaying taxes, keep more of that money. So I think that'll be really helpful. They just DM me, the name of the podcast. So, because I know I was on a different show with you and I didn't want to call it the wrong one.
Oh, no, it's all good. No, could I have chosen a longer podcast name? I don't know, but
it's all good. Well, thanks for having me.
Yes, thanks again. We'll make sure to put that in the show notes. And everyone, thank you again for joining us for another episode. And make sure to reach out to Garrett. This is a very generous offer he's given us. Thanks again,
so
everyone.
much.
Have a good one.
Thank you for joining us on another episode of the Secrets to Abundant Living podcast. We hope you found inspiration and valuable insights that will empower you on your journey towards abundance. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and leave a review. Your feedback means the world to us, and it helps others discover the secrets to an abundant life too. Stay connected with us on LinkedIn, Amy Silvis. Keep striving for your goals, nurturing your relationships, and embracing the adventure that is life. Until next time, we wish you an abundantly fulfilling day.